Hey YouTube, Remeko here. Here's just a video that I'm making. It's going to be called Road to Nationals. It's going to be a series that I'm going to be hosting, I guess, one episode per week, I suppose, until the beginning of the North American Nationals, which is happening on, I think, July 16th and 17th. So this is just tips for Six Samurai players, as well as players that might be wondering, I guess, what Six Samurais might be using in the YCS Nationals, or not, sorry, the 2011 Nationals, and whatnot. So, and I think for the majority, anyone who's going to be playing Six Samurais at Nationals will be playing the standard version, meaning, like, you know, the version with the upstarts, just for the whole quick draw power thing. The asceticism is really cool and whatnot, but I feel like standard has a little bit more, you know, it's a little bit faster, especially if you're going first. And in this dice roll format, something that a lot of people have been saying and talking about, going first and kind of thinning through that deck of yours is the ultimate objective for anyone who's playing any deck, especially Six Samurais. So my standard Samurai deck, here's the magic card lineup: Book of Moon, Giant Trunade, Reinforcement of the Army, Monster Reborn, Gateway, 2 MSDs, 2 Upstart Goblins, because I feel like 3 is too many. Personally, it's just been working for me better that way. 3 Smoke Signals and 3 Uniteds. So I personally feel that more than 2 Upstarts is too much, I guess, and it gives your opponent too much of an advantage. My trap lineup: Solemn Judgment, 2 Warnings, Mirror Force, 2 Double-Edged, 1 Magatama, 2 7 Tools, 1 Compulsory, and 1 Torrential Tribute. So you see the trap lineup is a little bit more versatile than the asceticism builds. You see that we have Compulsory, Torrential, 7 Tools of the Bandit, 2 of them, as well as Magatama. We're trying to negate your opponent's traps, give yourself a better setup even if you're going second, but at the same time going a little bit faster than usual with your Upstart Goblins. For the monster lineup, 3 Kagemushas, 3 Kizans, 3 Kagekis, 2 Hand of the Six Samurais, 1 Spirit, 1 Yaichi, and 1 Grandmaster. So why 2 Hand of the Six Samurais? It's a 1600 monster. Usually, if you're a Six Samurai player, you sometimes, not even sometimes, often, you find yourself in a predicament where you want more than 1 Hand of the Six Samurai, either because it's destroyed, you don't have a double-edged sword technique, you're trying to push for game, you just try to do a lot of things, and you're just like, well, I don't really have you know, a mid-sized beater in this deck, you know what I mean? Like, aside from Kizan, you know, Grandmaster requires that there be another Six Samurai monster on the field. Kageki, if you have no other monsters, it's only going to have 200 attack. Kagemusha is only 400 attack. Yaichi is 1300, and the Spirit of the Six Samurai is 500. So that leaves you kind of like, hey, like, don't I want, you know, a good chance of drawing hand right away? Or if that first hand dies, do I not want another hand and whatnot? So especially later in the game. And I just added the second hand, and it's been working really well because of that. So on to the extra deck. 3 Six Samurai, Legendary Six Samurai Xian, Catastor, Brio, Gaia, Barkion, Landois, Ancient Fairy, Scrap Archfiend, Black Rose, Stardust, Thought Ruler, Colossal Fighter, Ally of Justice, Decisive Armor. The Mistworm should be a Trishula, which I'm getting in the mail really soon, and Chimera Tech. So that is pretty much it as to what your extra deck should look like. You know, with the fairies and whatnot, you might want to have Ally of Justice, Decisive Armor in there, just for the fact that someone might be playing at Nationals. It's a very powerful deck. Going into the side deck, which is something I really haven't revealed up to this point. What should be in a side deck for Nationals? Chain Disappearance, 2 of these. Rivalry of Warlords, this effectively shuts down plants, monarchs, anything actually. Any of these stupid Tengu variants. I don't know. These 4 cards on their own will shut down monarchs and Tengu, whatever, plants or whatever. Dimensional Fissure, another 2 cards that are, you know, they increase your chance of winning the game. They're not, you know, the game winners themselves. Whereas Chain Disappearance effectively wins you the game. If you're playing a mirror match and your opponent is like Kagemusha, you're like Chain Disappearance, boom, the game is over, right? Effectively, pretty much, the game is over. They have nothing to sync with. It's all gone, pretty much. So, yeah. So, Dimensional Fissure is almost like a win more card. Cyber Dragon, the 2 Cyber Dragons that you might really want to have just in case you're facing someone with machines. Nobleman of Crossout. Here's something I've actually been debating. 2 Noblemans or, you know, 2 DD Crows or 2 Puppet Plants. I don't know. Because at this point, not many people are playing Gravekeepers, or from what I've seen. So that's still up for debate. 2 Dust Tornadoes for sure. Just for the fact that you might be playing very anti-meta decks and whatnot, which have heavy back row support. And 3 Kinetic Soldiers. And this is something I've been debating as well. Should we have 3 Kinetic Soldiers? Is 2 enough because heroes are going down in play? Or whatnot, you know what I mean? So, with that being said, that is the current side deck. But on top of the current side deck, there's a lot of these tech choices that I want to talk to you guys about. Aside from your deck tech choices, here are some tech choices that you can put into your side deck or your main deck. Trap Does Shoot. So let me talk about this card for a second. This card is an amazing card. This card is nuts. If you play any TG deck or Plant Synchro, Tenku plants, Chaos plants, any sort of plant variant, getting this card first turn or even mid game when they have, you know, a hand advantage and, you know, they have their 1 Debris Dragon in hand or their Gores in hand or whatever, sending that back to the deck and knowing everything that they're going to play from that point on is just a giant you know, gain in terms of knowledge, and it's just a big giant fuck you card, and it's an amazing card. I'm actually thinking about maining it at the current moment. Fiendish Chain. I don't know, like this card is really good. It's like an effect veiler, a permanent effect veiler, and a permanent spellbinding circle, but you know, it can be MST'd and giant tunated. It can help you out on the right situations, but it leaves their monster still there on the field. So it's a really good card. I used to play it at 2 in my main deck with the Asceticism build, which is really nice. But for the standard build, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if it's better than Compulsory Evacuation Device or Torrential Tribute. That being said, Royal Oppression. Royal Oppression is a card that I took out of this main deck of 6 Samurais because it locks you down. I personally feel like it locks me down more than it locks my opponent down. And if I'm going first, I really don't want this card. If I'm going, you know, or if I lose the first game, in second game, depending on the deck that I'm playing, I may want this card. So this is probably going to go into my side deck. On to some of the Magic tech choices. Dark Hole is a very, you know, you don't really want to run Dark Hole in a deck like 6 Samurais, aside from Torrential Tribute, because you can use it on your opponent's turn. Why would you ever want to use a Dark Hole on your turn, aside from the very extreme cases where, you know, your opponent has such giant advantage over you? At which point, I don't even think a Dark Hole matters. But it might be useful against the anti-meta decks if you want to side it. Prohibition. This card, very underrated card. I don't see many people using Prohibition for whatever reason. And you can pretty much shut down an entire deck's engine if you get to go first and you play Prohibition. So this is also a good contender for the side deck. And I really don't think there's any restrictions on Prohibition. Maybe it might be semi-limited or whatnot, but I'm not sure about that. But regardless of whether it's limited or semi-limited or unlimited, it's a great card. and I think it's worth side decking for sure. So think about it. Think about every deck that is in the current metagame. They usually run off one or two engines, and declaring even one of those cards that fuels that engine effectively makes the deck stop running. So your opponent pretty much has to find a way out of this, whether it's MST, Giant Trunade, whatever, you know, like whatever it is. So Puppet Plant. So with other 6 samurais that are going to be there, is this a worthwhile card to run? Should we run this card, or should we stick to the 2 kinetic soldiers and the 2 chain disappearances, whatever, and try to play a more defensive game rather than an offensive game? Puppet Plant only allows you to have your opponent's, you know, warrior monster for just the end of the turn. And is it worth having? Are you going to synchro their Kizen or Shien or Kagemusha or whatever that they have on their field? Or is it just going to go back to them at the end of the turn? Are you going to push for game, or how is this going to work? So, and last but not least, DD Crow. So this card is self-explanatory. DD Crow is almost like a card that you want if your opponent is going first and they're playing something that involves graveyard. So, you know, whether they're playing Fables and they're trying to discard and send something or special summon from the graveyard, or where they're playing plants and they want to dump their what do you call it, glow up bulb into the graveyard and then try to special summon it or whatever. This card works wonders because of the fact that it'll get rid of their card and whatnot, and remove it from play. So great side deck contender. Is it better than Dimensional Fissure? Can't really say, you know. Like they can MST and Giant Trunade your Fissure, but you know, until they get the MST or Giant Trunade, it's going to stay up and it's going to remove all of their monsters from play. So it really depends on what kind of advantage you want to have in the game. Do you want to have, you know, an advantage when they're going first, or do you want to have advantage when you're going first? All these cards are worth looking into. This is just some of the tech cards that I'm bringing up this week. I will definitely have more as we go along, but that's pretty much it. Like, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any cards that you want me to feature, and if there's any cards that you've thought of which are better than some of these cards. Remember, Fiendish Chain can stop stuff like Black Rose. It can stop Chaos Sorcerer, Caius, everything. But, you know, it's still going to be on the field. So, thanks again, guys. Leave your comments. Please rate, subscribe, and comment. Take care, YouTube.